Hey man,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but your video quality is not great. I don't know if there's some problem with your net. Like, Ayush sir.
No, I'm just that ugly.
Slightly better now. I don't know.
Slightly better now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Is it all clear, or I'll just you know what? Try to join again. Give me a sec.
It's much better now, actually.
Okay, he went out. He will come back, I think.
Yeah. Do you know what is the username for Ayush Ashok sir, his personal ID? Because he was there in my list, but I cannot add him.
He joined, na? Aqua Shyam, Aqua underscore Shyam, SHY.
I can see him here. Yeah.
Yeah, just send him it.
Sent him an invite link, so hopefully he should be with us soon.
Hello.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi, morning. So I'll start off with the introductions because it's already 7 p.m. and so I'll add Dr. Prashant as soon as he joins. So good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining this live session on research, particularly important topic which there's a
I think we're live. He's coming back.
I can only add 3 people at a time, apparently. Looks like there is some issue with that.
Is it so?
Yeah. So probably I will go live with both of you and then add. Okay, it's sorted.
Hey man.
Yeah, we are.
Can you all see me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Is the video okay?
Yeah, I can. Dr. Prashant,
All right.
there's issue where I can be live only with 3 people at a time. So what I'll do is I'll go live with Ayush sir and Ashok sir for some time and come back to you for your perspectives maybe in half an hour from now, if that's okay by you.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Cool. No problem.
Yeah. I did not know about this logistic issue because the first time we have added like 3 people at a time. So I'll get back to you and with the questions that we have in mind for you in a short.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely no point. Just put it on your comment or something for people to know that I'm going to join back later.
Yeah, will do. I'll put in a comment and also introduce you at the beginning and let them know that you will be on after some time.
All right. Sounds cool. Okay. Good to see you, Ayush sir. See you soon.
See you shortly.
Yes,
Bye.
same here. See you soon.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with the introductions. We have great speakers with us to talk on this very important topic, which is of value and not very well covered from the perspective of Indian orthopedic residency programs. So we have with us Dr. Ashok Shyam. Ashok sir needs no introduction. He presently works as a research consultant at the Sancheti Institute, and as we all know, he's more well known because of his association with the Indian Orthopaedic Research Group as well as a founder of OrthoTV. He has to his name 256 articles published in various international peer-reviewed journals and almost 20 book chapters. That's a huge body of work, and I don't know if there's anybody better than him at this point to talk about this particular topic. Ayush Sharma, sir, is a consultant at the Railway Hospital, Baikala, and he has been actively involved in teaching DNB residents. He has trained over 20 residents, and he combines his busy practice with an emphasis on research. So essentially, he has multiple peer-reviewed publications, including a recent paper on cerebrolysin in the prestigious Spine Journal. He has been awarded multiple times on various platforms for his work, mainly focused on spine. But given his experience in teaching DNB residents, he will give his valuable insights for research, especially from the resident perspective. From the younger generation, we have my senior, Dr. Prashant Meshram again, and he has done good work in research, was a research fellow at the prestigious Johns Hopkins Institute. And unfortunately, on this live session at this point, we can only add 2 panelists. So we will bring him on shortly for his insights about research and his journey as well. So we're already 5 minutes behind schedule. So I will immediately start off with the questions so we do not waste any further time. Special thanks to Ashok sir and OrthoTV for the technical support and streaming to their other platforms, as well as a shout out to Kanyamed MD, which is a medical apparel brand, and they have been supportive of our academic endeavors. So thank you to you as well. So we've got almost 17 to 18 participants on the live session. Ayush sir, Ashok sir, any opening remarks or your perspectives, or should we go straight to the questions?
Go ahead, Ayush.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead straight to the point and we can discuss in between.
Okay, wonderful. So housekeeping announcements as always to all the people who have joined us today. If you have any particular question directed towards any of the panelists, feel free to mention that in the chat box. We'll try to cover most of them in the 1.5 hour session that we have. If we are not able to discuss anything, the video will go live on various platforms and you can drop those questions as comments and we will try to get back to you. We could not have Dr. Prashant right now, so if there are any particular questions directed towards him, you can leave them in the chat box, and once we have him on, we can cover those as well. So I'll start off with a question for Ayush sir about research, because we all know how busy orthopedic residency is, especially for a junior resident. Most of the times you're running around arranging the ORs and doing work on the ward and stuff like that. So the burning question is, what's the correct time to begin with research, and are there any tips for starting off with research along with the rest of the clinical work that we have to manage? Ayush sir, your insights on that.
Yeah, so to begin is the most important thing. You need to begin early in your career, and that is the most important thing for doing research. If you start early, the best time to start, I think, is the first year of residency. The problem with first year of residency is all that you described, and again, the biggest problem remains that you don't know anything about your research, because most of us has never done a research before we join our residency program. And coming to Indian scenario, the scene get even worse because most of the medical colleges don't have a culture of research. Unlike your college from where you come, like KEM, does have a culture of research. So the guys, they can really pick it up very early in the career. But when it goes to most of the other medical colleges, they only are interested to finish their thesis. And that is where the problem arises. Because when you're interested in finishing your thesis, you don't really want to do the research part. So first year, the starting is the most important thing. You start with a proper research, and best way to start is, I think, is your thesis, because that is the first thing, or the first official research that you are bound to do. So that is where the first research should start.
Right. I think you're correct about that. And one problem that we face is The research methodology workshop for the thesis is actually conducted in the third year when most of your residency period is over, when actually it should be conducted right at the beginning, so you can use those tips for carrying out your thesis in a appropriate manner. Ashok sir, any remarks on how you can commence with research in a busy residency?
Yeah, so my views to start the research is, I think we should start as soon as we enter our medical colleges. We should start looking at research as research is a long-term proposition. It has to begin early, like Ayush said. And currently with the resources available, you can easily start in your MBBS days also.
Right.
MBBS days, you get connected with the residents that are working in different departments, show your inclination, get certain case reports, get certain review articles published, start very early. That's my take, because it helps in developing the culture. What we lack in India is the culture for research. Starting in first year of residency is really.
Right.
I mean, you are exposed to a new branch. You are just getting to know people and getting to know your subject. You are taking rounds in the morning, you are putting plasters and doing OT calls. During that period, it's so difficult to get yourself acquainted to another new thing called research.
Right.
So I believe that you have enough time in those days, and you should plan it well. First year residency is kind of difficult.
The one question that we get from a first year resident or anybody, or rather an excuse for not starting research on time, is I do not have any data. Where do I begin? So do you think you really need any clinical data to begin research, or there are any other avenues where even if you don't have any personal data of your own, you can still work out around it and do something? Ashok sir?
I think there are too many data of your own.
Sir, your voice quality is a bit not that great. It's cracking in between.
Okay. Is that my fan doing the trick? Let me off it. Okay.
So I'll take that question. So I think, the most important thing here is when a resident wants to do research, you don't do anything in life until you need it. That is the basic principle of life. So most important to understand why you need the research. And then it is, so until unless the resident understand why it is important for him to start the research right now, he will never do it. Because when you are starting your career in your residency program, you have just, as Dr. Shyam rightly said, so many things are new to you. And to understand this important thing, it is the duty of the mentor or the guide to introduce the research question to him and to make him understand why it is important to start it as early as possible, maybe in medical school, but if you've not done it, at least as early in your residency career. And even if you don't have the data, I think the most important thing in the research is the research question. And that is where you start your research. You should have a question or a thought in mind. And that is where the research starts. Even before you look at that, even before you start looking at the data, it is a question which is most important. And I think the role of the mentor or the guide or whoever he or she is very important. He's the one who should encourage the resident to and give him all the perspectives or insight of how to think about the question and what and even guide him why it is important to start it early and why it is very important to go through as he goes through his residency and a career program to continue with the research.
Thanks for that comment. And from particularly to that question where they say that I don't have clinical data of my own. There are other avenues like studies based on bibliography. You'll find so many articles like 10 most cited articles in spine on, say, endoscopic spine surgery. Or there are narrative reviews where you take up a burning topic and you talk about, say, the latest updates in, say, navigation guided surgery. Or there would be some other things like book chapters or other avenues which are going on. So if you reach out and show inclination that you're keen on doing something, I don't think availability of data is really an excuse or something which should hold you back. Ashok sir, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, like I said, there are quite a few avenues. Few of them you enumerated already. Is my voice clear or better?
Yeah, it's much better now. Thanks.
Okay. So there are quite a few avenues. For example, you said about those points. I will add the surveys to it. Surveys are very easy to do. And with saying that research question is so important, if you get the right question for the survey, it will work very well. And you can get a good survey published as an original article. Of course, there are case reports already there hanging around. They are very low hanging fruits, the case reports. So you can anytime talk to your mentors, talk to your guide. They'll always have plenty of case reports wherever they are working, private or in public hospitals. So case reports are really, really low hanging fruit. You can begin with them. Even in your MBBS days, you can publish surveys and you can publish case reports. Both of them are very, very feasible.
Right. Thanks for that. I just got a few messages on WhatsApp that people are unable to join. Do you mind if I just relaunch the whole session and add both of you again?
Yeah. Sure.
We'll do
please go ahead.
Second.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go. Yeah.
A few messages on WhatsApp that people are.
Again, you have just started your career and you don't understand the subject well, but you should show an active interest in whatever topic you are choosing. The role of the guide or the mentor becomes very important, but you at the same time, what I will say, most of the times what we do is we'll suggest the resident few topics, and then we'll tell them you go and see whichever topic you want. There are few important things you should understand. Most important is to start a thesis, a research topic as a thesis or anything. Understand your own setup very well, because
Right.
I believe each and every setup has some unique character, and there are few like so for example, we in my setup we have a very good follow-up, as good as 8 to 10 year follow-ups we have. So that is our plus point. Similarly, each and every setup won't have everything, but identify the plus point of your setup. Maybe you have more surgical case, maybe you have
Right.
more conservative case, and then try to frame a question which favors your setup. Because ultimately, your aim should not only be to finish your thesis, but to understand how to do the research with it, and ultimately to publish it once you have finished your thesis. So starting that thesis is the most important thing. And before you start, it is important to understand your own setup. What is that your setup has, which is unique, and what you can do, which is maybe adds to the knowledge or adds to the literature. Because as we all know, the question is the most important when it comes to research.
That's true. Like you can't do a research on robotics in spine surgery if your setup doesn't have a robo, but you can definitely do something on spine tuberculosis because that's what we see and face every day. So I think that was a very important point. Identify what your institute specializes in, particularly in terms of caseload, and then you can choose a topic. Ashok sir,
Yeah.
once like we have covered a thesis and it's done and ready, and then the next question arises: how do I approach and what journal do I choose? So, what are your pointers and take on that?
So which journal to submit to? Is that a question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you choose a journal?
So that's a very, very common question. And the answer lies in a very important part of your thesis that you have already done, the review of literature.
Right.
So you're in the review of literature, you know in which journals this kind of article has been published. So you have to compare your research methodology with the published articles and see if your number of cases is lower, if your research doesn't have a randomized trial, if your research is just simple case series. You have to say which journals the case series kind of article is published in that particular topic.
Right.
And then from that, you select 4 or 5 journals, send it to the highest journal that is there in that block.
Right.
Okay, so getting the point. So it depends on what your data is and how it is. Compare your data and your paper with the existing literature, see which journals fit in that block, select the highest journal in that block and send it across. That's the simplest way of selecting a journal.
Thanks. And do you recommend that the journal should be, say, indexed or run by a particular society, or what are the other factors which influence decision making? Like some journals have article processing charge which is so prohibitive that we may not even be able to access that because we don't have funds for it. So there are some other factors which influence these decisions as well. So any comments on that?
Yeah, so like I said, once you get that block of 4 or 5 journals, from that you can select if the journal is having high APC, then you need not submit there, or you request the editor beforehand that you won't be able to pay. Many times they consider it. The point of indexing is a huge gray area. I mean, there is so much unclarity on that is difficult to untangle it. And the perspectives keep on changing from a lot of areas. A lot of indexes are available. So impact factor is one of it. Pubmed is there. So how are we going to compare various things? So for me, make it simple. If the journal is Pubmed index, that's fair enough. So that is the basic line for submitting an article. So suppose your article is not getting through in a journal which is on PubMed. You try 2-3 times and it is rejected. So how do you go to the next one? So for a journal is not yet on PubMed, but it is run by a society.
Right.
Okay, and it publishes decent articles. So you have to read the journal to know the quality of article it is publishing, so that you understand, okay, this is a decent journal with decent editorial board, people whom you know, or people who have made a name in that specialty. So based on that, you select non-PubMed journals.
Right.
So I think that's the simplistic way. PubMed journals don't think of much. If APC is prohibitive, write to the editor. If he doesn't agree, move to the next PubMed index journal. Non-PubMed index journals, based on the society and based on the quality of articles they are publishing. So
correct.
That's as simple as that.
Thanks for that.
Can I add something to that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Can I add something? Yeah. So I think you should not be discouraged by a rejection. That is the most important thing. I'll tell you my example. My thesis is on pediatric orthopedic. It's a CTEV, okay, and I was rejected 9 times from. So what? All those 9 times were rejected from, like, because it was the first article I ever wrote. The first that I started very late, okay. But what those rejections did, it taught me how to write a article. So ultimately, after 3.5 years, we still got it published in a PubMed index journal. But I'll tell you, it came very later on. But what it did, all those 8 or 9 rejections from everywhere, it taught me how to write an article. So don't get disheartened by rejection. Go through it, why it got rejected, improve, and I'm sure if I can do it, each and every one of you can do it. That is what I think.
That's a very valuable comment, because many a times we ourselves don't know the lacunae in the theses or what we have written. But when you say submit to a journal, along with the rejection, you would also get some comments from the reviewers about, say, the plus points or the negative points with a particular article. So you can actually build on those comments and then submit again to either a same journal or a different one. So, just putting it out there in a journal, I think, is the first step. So, with regards to the article processing charge, I found an interesting, I've been navigating around it. So step 1 is, if you, in the cover letter itself, mention that there are no sources of funding for this particular research. Many a times, journals are encouraging of young researchers, and you can get some waivers on those fronts. The other thing is, there are journals which are run by societies, like the Global Spine Journal is run by AO Spine, and if you're a member of that society, the author doesn't have to pay any charge. So if article processing charge is something that's holding you back, then there are ways and means to navigate it, and most of the journals themselves are encouraging of young researchers. I can say that for sure about JOCR, because I myself have written to that journal for waivers and have gotten it in residency. So it's not just that particular journal. Most of them are happy to waive these charges off. The other thing is the concept of predatory journals. Like, there are many emails in your inbox if you actually start publishing, and there would be comments like, we do this and we will get back to you in 3 days, a confirmed publication in 7 days, or something like that. And you may fall prey to such journals. So any techniques for identifying these predatory journals? Does it benefit our career in any way, publishing in these journals? Ashok sir, any comments on that?
Yeah, so first point is to make it clear that your academic career or your list of publication is a very sacred document.
Right.
Publishing in a predatory journal defiles it. It's like a black spot on your CV, on your research grade profile, or anywhere.
Right.
So don't publish there. It is better not to publish at all rather than publish in a print. So that's my predatory journals. How to identify them? You already listed them. They will solicit your articles. They will send you emails continuously, and they will say that they'll publish within a short time. If there is peer review, that journal is predatory.
Right.
Okay, so if you're getting a peer-reviewed document back, then that journal is a good journal. If you're just getting some grammar correction, then it's not a good journal. Second point is submission to predatory journals is a problem actually because they don't let you withdraw the articles.
Okay.
In fact, I had incidences on these predatory journals asking the authors to pay money to withdraw the article. You're getting the point.
Right.
So be very careful that you do not submit to any journal which has these policies. You can easily make out a predatory journal. Just go through one or two articles of them. You'll find that they are poorly formatted. The grammar is absolutely all over the place. The figure legends will be all over the place. The reference numbering will be just haphazard, and it will just look like a concise thesis most of the time. All kinds of graphs and stuff.
Right.
So if you read the one or two articles in the journal, you'll know that this is a predatory journal.
Right.
And most of the time, it is like quick publication for a cost without. Better not to publish at all. Yeah.
That's a very important comment because once it's online and it's up there, there is no going back. And like you said, it's a blot on your CV. So no quick fixes. Research is not a short-term game where you say wake up one day and say in 7 days I'm going to say put out a few articles. So thanks for those. So and some of these journals are in fact. I don't know. I don't know if I should be saying this, but there is a gray area where there are Pubmed Index journals and there are MCI recognized journals, where some of the journals which are recognized by MCI actually solicit articles and, but I wouldn't be saying this on a public platform about this particular thing, but the safe bet is go to a Pubmed Index journal or go to journals that are run by societies and choose the appropriate ones. We have a question from sorry Ashok sir.
But like I said, you're not publishing for MCI. You're publishing for yourself. The publication dossier is your identification, your identity.
Right.
And in long term, people will recognize you by the publications you are making.
Right.
Not really what publications are recognized by MCI or anybody. Okay, so please don't go by whether this MCI recognized or not recognized. Go to a good journal, always.
Right. We have a question from one of the viewers, Dr. Vivek. He asks, how long should we wait for a journal to send us reviewer comments? Ayush sir, any takes on that?
So normally these, if now because we are reviewers as well, so most of the journals have a fixed timeline, and you need to submit your reviews within that. So if you have submitted, that's the question of choosing a good journal come into the picture. If you have chosen a good journal, they will have a fixed timeline, and you are likely to get a review comment somewhere between as early as a week to maybe a month or 1.5 months, because all these journals, they work on a fixed timeline. And if you're not getting your reviews within maybe 1.5, maybe maximum 2 months, and they have not given any explanation, then there is something wrong with the journal or with the system. Maybe you can write to them. But normally, if you have chosen a good journal, this should not happen to you that you have to wait very, very long for a reviewer's comment.
But the question is very relevant because there are a few journals that are notorious where the article is in review and then there is radio silence from the other end, sometimes even for an entire year, where the article just lies there. Any cutoff that you use, where you just say withdraw it and submit it elsewhere? What do you
So
do
if
if
you're not,
your article is in already and you're not getting any responses?
so if it's a good journal, I'll write to the editor, and normally they will respond to you. But I have never seen them going beyond, I think, 3 months. That is my experience with any good journals that we have submitted. And they will normally, if there is issue, they will also write it to you. There are times when they're migrating from one software to other. That was one incident where we had to wait for 3 months. But if you're not getting any response for more than, I say, 3 months, then I think that then maybe shift to another one. But I think before you do that, and if you think it's a good journal and you have a good chance, then maybe I will suggest write once to the editor. Most of the editors and good journals will respond to you if why there is a delay.
Thanks. Ashok sir, one question about author order. How relevant it is to be a first author or a corresponding author? What do these terms mean, and the importance of the same?
So they mean different at different period of time in your career. Once you're early in your career, the first author, the corresponding author, it means because it is counted for your fellowships and for your also. And it is based on proper criteria laid down by the medical editors body, and people who have conceptualized the project, have collected data, work the most is in the order of their appearance in the article. So that's it's simple. But there are a lot of content that because we never follow it. A lot of people don't follow it. So, but later in your career, it doesn't matter.
Right.
For me now, it doesn't matter in which level I am or which part. I'm mostly in the last part of the author's list, so it doesn't matter.
Right. But then for the younger guys, you recommend that if you've done the work, try to be
yes.
Do this. Yeah.
So it becomes difficult because, so I'll just give you an example. It becomes difficult for thesis. Who will be the first author?
Right.
Because that's their, most of the time, that's their first research work anyways. Before then, they haven't done. And it's become very difficult because they are they are in learning process. And they have collected data, done work. So, and plus the guide also is looking at first authorship, second authorship for his promotion.
Right.
So there you need to, it's an interpersonal relationship between you and your guide which defines.
I think it's very important, especially for some of the fellowship applications where I've actually seen there are points allotted for a first author or a corresponding author, which are more than just another author. So if particularly for young guys, if you can go through any of the forms that we use for applying to a fellowship, many a times there are specific points allotted based on the impact index of the journal and the author order. So it's relevant for us, not so relevant for Ashok sir, but yeah, I don't know how you can navigate.
Easily take up the corresponding.
Yeah.
Guide is not.
Yeah. So that is a trick. I think if you cannot get your first author, take up the corresponding author, and if you see in most of the fellowship applications, they are almost equally valued, and that is the key. If you cannot be a first author in your thesis on any topic, take up the corresponding author, and then you are almost equally valued. That is what I feel. And if you go through all those research applications, they will value you equivalent to first author if you are a corresponding author.
Right.
But don't go ahead fighting with people because you're not getting those. Okay, be part of the list. Because a lot of fellowships, they'll make out who deserves and who does not. So don't worry about that. That only this will determine you getting a fellowship. That's not the case.
Right. Ayush sir, how has research helped you in terms of your long-term career development and private practice? I can attest to the fact that it definitely helps when it comes to your fellowship interviews and till that stage of career. I have no clue beyond that, and you have combined a busy practice with active research. So a few pointers how it has helped you with that, and is it sustainable carrying out both?
Yeah. So as I told initially, research you should understand why you need to research. And it is like, so it is a process. In every stage of your career, research has different meaning to you. You start with your residency, research may be just your thesis. Then you have gone through your residency, you want to get into a fellowship. And that is where, frankly speaking, I started my research. I started pretty late because I was searching for a good fellowship and I was not getting good enough. And that is where it got me into. So need is most important. You should need something. If you need something, you'll go for it. And later on, as I progressed ahead, now the question is more about like now my research is more into some of the times it is about validation of our own surgical technique or our own result, or sometimes it is about to finding answer to a question which has eluded me. So, but every stage you can do a research depending upon your need. And as you go ahead, so for example, the cerebrolysin study, which we just published in Spine, we were getting we were operating so many cases of cerebrolysin from cervical myelopathy. And there was a lot of lacuna regarding how they progress and if anything could help in. And that is where that question came. And we wanted to just, and we saw there's no data on it and we wanted to take it up. And right now we have another 2 research projects on cerebrolysin, just because we do lot of cervical myelopathy case. So the focus changes, but still you can continue your practice. You can do what you need to do, and you can generate a research question from what you are doing currently, and then the research becomes very, very interesting. It is not for your thesis. It is not for your interview for a fellowship. It is about solving that question which has eluded you as a surgeon, as a researcher, or as a physician.
Thanks. And you believe that you've been able to carry all of that along with practice, so you don't you can combine both of them without much hassle. I think the COVID slowdown has helped us as well, where with the reduction in physical activity, we have actually managed some of the research. Dr. Vivek has a question again.
Sorry. So just one thing. So once you start it, it becomes, so once you start it becomes part of your DNA. I know you also, and I understand no matter what you do in tomorrow, even if you become a very big practitioner, I know part of you will be doing some research, whatever the time allows. So that is how it is. If you start early, it becomes part of your DNA somewhere down the line.
Thanks. So we have a question here. Any organization or channel through which we can collaborate with our colleagues in the Western world on similar topics? So Ashok sir, Ayush sir, any comments on that? Have you collaborated actively with somebody from a different country or a different continent?
Yeah, we regularly collaborate with McMaster University, and we have collaborated with European Orthopaedic Research Society also, and plus personal level collaborations always keep on happening.
Right.
The avenues are difficult for individual practitioners, but they are there for institutes and hospitals if there is somebody to take care of. Right. So your institute or the hospital will need an academic research division who can liaise and collaborate with the international bodies. Most of the people are ready to collaborate with us in India because they know that we have huge data. So right. It's the infrastructure that we lack. And if we can provide the infrastructure, people are ready to take up things.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So
Ayush, sir, any comments on that?
So at an individual level, collaboration can be very easy. For example, if you have been into fellowship earlier with someone outside your mentor and you think he can add a value to your research, when you go, you can discuss your research with him and later on have a long-term collaboration with him. So our previous publication on cervical myelopathy, I collaborated with my mentor who was in Germany, and he was one of the authors. And we went back and forth, and finally we published the article with with him being a contributor. So you should think like these collaboration are very easy if you are serious about your work, and you can do a institutional collaboration, or at least you can do a personal collaboration, because and most of the time these guys are more than happy to help you. But at the end, you should see what it adds to your research. And not only that, just for the name of it, you should have someone from outside. But if you see if that person or that institute is adding a value to your research. For example, recently the paper we published, Nandan had some collaboration from his institute, and I think the overall it added a value to our article, and that's how it should be. At the end of it, it should bring something on table, not only just for the name of it. You should have a collaboration.
Sure. I think one more avenue is we undervalue the importance of conferences. Conferences are actually a very good
Networking.
You meet so many people and you can run your ideas by them and talk to them on the sidelines. So I think that's one more way where you can run an idea by a mentor or somebody from a different institute and collaborate with them. Ayush sir, we'll bring you back on for some questions specific to spine research in a few minutes. I'm adding
Sure.
Prashant sir for his takes on the same, and we'll have you again shortly.
Sure. I will wait. No problem. Go ahead.
Thanks. Could you leave the live chat? I'll add Prashant sir.
I will just.
I did not know about this limitation on Insta Live. Glad to discover it today.
We'll do it through StreamYard next time, so you'll have 5-6 people down at one time. No problem with that.
Sure.
Yeah, so about the research and clinical practice, Ayush made some important points. And I believe that research is not apart from clinical practice. It's a part of your clinical life. What do you call research? How do you define it? It is like pursuit of...
Hello.
No. Hi, Prashant.
Hello. Hey, man. How are you doing? Hello, Ashok sir. How are you doing?
Doing good.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. So Ashok sir was actually talking about research and combining it with clinical practice. So we'll let him continue with that.
Yeah, so I was saying that research is defined as pursuit of knowledge, and we are always pursuing to give better treatment for our patients. So that's what clinical practice is. So it is not apart from clinical practice at all for me. It is a part of clinical practice all the time, and I believe all of us do research. We just don't publish it.
Right.
Yeah, so we do research. We collect our data. Maybe not on paper, but in our head, we have the data. We just don't go ahead and publish it. Many of us. So research is not apart from clinical practice. The better you are at research principles, in a better way, you can input the data in your head and see your own results. Judge yourself which procedures are working with your hands better, which procedures you are having more issues, and something like that. So it's a self-audit that you can easily do if you know the research principles. And that is going to really, really help you in clinical practice and make your clinical practice grow. It's a very, very important tool for growing your clinical practice. So that's what my take was.
Thanks for that. Prashant sir, any tips for beginners and residents on commencing research? When did you start working on it? You know the logistic issues with research and the workload. So I think you are the best person, having just completed residency a few years back.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. It's good to be here. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So first question is when to start? ASAP. There's no beating around the bush. You got to start it as soon as possible. If someone is working as a resident or a consultant in an academic institute, if you're in a university hospital, you got to publish. You got to keep that. You got to keep that wheel going when it comes to publishing. It's very simple. It is just talking to someone who's publishing. You just say that you get along with them and you say that, hey, do you need some help with research? and you may just help them with a literature review. You may help them with reviewing the manuscript. You may help them a little bit, and you'll get your name on the publication. So it's not always that difficult. So if you are working in that institute or you know people in that institute, you should get on the research, especially for residents. Start as soon as possible. In United States, the residents publish. They have a residency program of 5 years. They still publish 4 on an average, 4, and that's an average. It means that there's a lot more publishing more than that, right? So at least the least we can do in India is like we can publish 1. What we need is 2 things. Number 1, we need more motivation, or you can say more kind of incentive from the mentors to push them, because there's no incentive for residents to publish or to work on the research. I mean, in first year or in second year, if you get time, I would just take an hour's nap, which could be the only sleep I would get in 24 hours instead of doing research. So there has to be some kind of incentive for people who work in the research. Like they should be the ones who should be scrubbing in the cases more. They should be the one you're actively teaching to and stuff like this. So mentors have to kind of direct it in a way that there are some incentives for the residents. Second thing for residents, which is extremely important, is to be diligent. Right? This is what my mentor from Johns Hopkins taught me. Is that you should be the first one to come in and you should be the last one to leave the office or the theater or anything. So as soon as you have some time, your seniors are sitting, you just sit and talk. Hey, how do you do that research? Or do you want to get on some kind of papers together? Is there something which you are doing actively which I can participate? Right. So your diligence is going to be extremely important. If you're working on a research, then don't wait for your mentor to call you and ask you, "Arey, uska kya ho gaya?" Don't do that, right? You got to be extremely proactive, and this is what happens. This is what happens with me as well. I was waiting, we'll just let it go, and madam jab puchegi, sir jab puchenge, to uska mein reply karenge. If you do that, you're never going to publish anything, right? The difference is going to be between the residents who publish and the residents who do not publish are the people who, number 1, show interest, number 2, who are behind the back of their mentors to get things done. So you have to be diligent. You have to be extremely serious about it. If they tell you to do something, you do it. When it comes to research, they know that you are no bullshit guy and you are someone who gets things done, and you would get more opportunities for research with those kind of mentors. The final thing I would say is to choose the mentors very carefully. If you're going to do a research if you're interested in research and you have 10 faculty in your institute, you got to approach the guy who has published earlier and who has published recently. He is the one who's more likely to get you involved into research, right? Most of the times, residents are very scared. This is what I have felt. There's a huge gap in India when it comes to mentor and mentee, or you would say that I'm extremely scared to go and talk to my professor. What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen, right? No, in school, no one's going to beat you up. The maximum that's going to happen is they're going to say is no, right? But that's okay. I think all as medicos, since our MBBS, we are used to insults. We are used to being said no, so it's not a big deal. For me, I feel very comfortable right now because this single approach has completely changed how I get opportunities. Go in and talk to people. You go and talk to people, sir. I'm extremely interested. I've read the article. That's really good. I would really look forward to help you. Do not expect them to put you on the authorship on your first project that you do together. You wait and they will ask you that, hey, you have done good work and I will put you as an author. So it kind of works as a goodwill and they would approach you for the next project. So choose your mentors and be diligent and work with them.
Right.
Another thing I would like to say is that if you're done with your residency and if you think that, okay, oh my God, my residency is over, now I want to start my private practice or whatever, just consider doing a short fellowship. Even if you want to start, I would just do 1 year fellowship with a guy who is publishing a lot of research. What will happen is you'll form a personal connection with him. And as Ayush sir was saying before, and Shyam sir also kind of stressed upon that, is that you form a lifelong bond with them, that this person is a source of research for you for life. I'll give you my personal example. I did a shoulder fellowship for 3 months at Seoul National University. And then I ended up publishing 12 papers even after my fellowship was over. I'm still publishing with them. We are still sending out the manuscript. He still approaches me because he knows that I'm someone who can get things done. So it is very important to find the mentor. If you're finding it locally, find it locally. If you want to go outside the country, go outside the country. And the final thing I would like to say on how to commence the research and when to commence the research, is that if you publish in your residency or in early career, that is going to decide if you're going to publish later in your life. Right. So it very few people are as excellent as one of the panelists, that they said that they started midway somewhere in their career. That's extremely rare. In my experience, if you publish early in your residency or just in your bond period or something, you're more likely to publish in future. So in nutshell, start ASAP, find your local or abroad mentors and form a bond with them so that you can publish with them for your life. And third important thing is be diligent, get things done. Don't just sit around and waste protoplasm. Get things done when it comes to research. That is how you get the wheel rolling when it comes to publication.
Thanks for those comments. And with regards to starting early, my first independent case was an intertrochanteric IT fracture, which we did with Shaligram sir in SKS unit. That IT fracture turned out to have an aberrant branch of profunda femoris leading to a pseudoaneurysm. It was my first ever independent case, and I was pretty I was shook. Like this, that's not what you expect, like a complication in your first case, and was a bit of a dampener. But then Rishi Agarwal, who was the senior reg, and Kunal Roy, who were with me in the unit, actually said that, you got a complication. Let's see what's published in that. And there was not much published talking about pseudoaneurysms for an intertrochanteric femur fracture, and we ended up writing on it. So I got my first case report for the first case that I operated. So I had quite an early start, and
Look at you now. I mean, good for you, bad for the patient. And look at you now. You're the boss. So I'm saying, start early.
End result was actually good. We had to transfer the patient overnight from KM to JJ because there was no intervention radio at KM at that point, and it had to be stented middle of the night. Huge drama, but end result was good. Everybody was happy. And then that was not something we could have anticipated. Like, we don't have a profunda femoris running adjacent to the, it was an unfortunate complication. But then I got my research started early because of this particular case. We have a few questions in the chat box. One is from Dr. Divya, and she's saying, what is the importance of keeping a paper open access? So how important is it, and any role for that? Because many journals actually charge money for open access. So Ashok sir, your takes on that?
Yeah, I just answered it. It's not important. You can upload your preprint on ResearchGate. It will be as searchable as the original ones.
Okay. But then any legal implications for it, or you're muted, Ashok sir?
Preprint on ResearchGate is perfectly allowed by the journal, and fair enough. Then nothing to worry. And if it is not there, then people can request you on ResearchGate. You can provide them. I get a lot of requests every time, and so open access. Okay, Prashant, your take. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's extremely. I a little differ kind of on this topic. Is that having an open access is kind of important when it comes to outreach of your research. Like, if you're published on something, then if it's in a particular journal which does not have an open access, it makes a lot of difference in how many people access your article in third world countries, especially in developed countries. Like, you have a lot of people who have access to journals. I would say journals with impact factors and good quality journals who do not have open access. But in countries like India, and I have always found it very difficult to access journals from JBJS or CORE or any other kind of good quality journals. So having open access kind of helps if you have that kind of money. You should not publish in open access journals which are predatory journals just because you want it to be free for everyone to read. As Sir said, I think it's important that you can upload the preprint on the ResearchGate. But as soon as you sign the copyright, this is my take on it. As soon as we sign the copyright with the journal, that we are giving them the rights to publish it publicly, then I think, in my personal opinion, that we cannot keep it in the public circuit. We cannot just send it on we cannot just post it on social media, the full paper, after we have signed the copyright with the journal. So this is something dicey. No one will catch you on this unless you have like a Nobel Prize or something like this. But Still, I would be very skeptical in putting paper for public access on ResearchGate. I would keep it as a private copy. If someone asks me for access to it, I will send them privately. So for me, open access is very important. If you have that kind of money, if you're publishing in good journals, they will always ask you if you want to make it open access. You can do that. It needs $700 to $800. I do not have that kind of money, but if you have, please go for it. Now, another thing which I would like to say is there are very big journals which are going open access, like PLOS. It's a very highly cited journal. It has very good impact factors. It has orthopedic papers, but it has gone open access and it has gone completely online. So I think as we see in the future that scientific articles and science is becoming more open, more of a market in the sense that open market. Most of the journals are going to have some or the other kind of open access, or they're going to reduce the amount of money in coming years for us to access them. So open access is important if you can get it for your journal, but I wouldn't recommend going to a lower journal of open access. Publish in good journals. If you have money, make them open access. Be careful what you put on social media. Don't put the full text. It does not look good.
No, I think preprint is allowed. The final print copy is not. So you can always, even on your institute website, you can put your preprint. So there is no problem with that. It is beyond. Access to, right of the thing is, even the app allow people to access the information, and if they're interested, the full text can be accessed from ResearchGate or your academic site when you're uploading. So it is partly laziness on the author's side also not to make it available. If you're so interested in making it open access and you're gonna pay for it, make the preprint open access, let people access it. So it works both ways.
Just one more comment on that. Most of the journals have an embargo period which is defined. So the way, like you said, the question is maybe a year or so, it becomes open access by default. So you can read up in the journal guidelines as well. So journals sometimes have an embargo period, and say beyond a year or so, they become open access by default. So I think it doesn't make sense unless you have funding to actually make it open access.
The difference for much for the impact of the article as such, unless it is a very, very good article which will impact clinical practice in a very great way. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's always a personal decision whether you want to pay for the article to be open access or not. I may go to jail for this, but for those who have been living under the rock, if you want to access some journal and you're not getting it, then this is what helped me in my residency and beyond. There's a website called SkyHub, SCI _HUB. It's a Russian website. They'll take away your money, but they'll give you free articles. They will not take your money. Sorry. Just search on. They keep changing their domains. It's always scihub.cc.hub because
you're talking about
the Google
topics which I specifically did not want to cover, but go ahead.
You know what? I'm going to jail for this, but great or good, cool, no problem. So that helped me in the residency in India, and this is extremely critical. This information has to go across. That they helped me accessing articles I could never have access to if I relied on my institute. They did not give me an access we needed. KEM is excellent. KEM gives you, but there are other institutes which have worked in India which did not give me free access to a lot of articles. If you don't have that, if you're in peripheral hospital, if you want to read about research, if you want to do your literature review, SkyHub helps, period.
And the other legal way out is make a profile on ResearchGate, reach out to the authors. The email is sent out to all the authors. When you say request for a full text from somebody, the email goes to all the authors and usually somebody responds to it. So, if you don't want to go the SciHub way, which is obviously something which I did too, the legal way to do it is maybe reach out through ResearchGate and you get a private copy for your own. We have a question from Dr. Rahul. He asks, any tips on meta-analysis and review articles? I assume, Rahul, this is with regards to how to commence a meta-analysis. So, Ashok sir, any pointers for that?
I think meta-analysis, personal opinion, are highly overrated. And I've seen a flood of meta-analysis in the last 2-3 years. It's difficult for me to say it's a public forum. But if you have a mentor who does a meta-analysis, go and liaise with them and start the project. And it's not so difficult to do. It's quite easy to do, specifically if you're addressing a research question which is quite rare or something. So you can have a mentor, collect data with them, do a meta-analysis. It's difficult in terms of statistical analysis. If you choose a rare topic, even the papers are less in number, even the analysis becomes much simpler. But I think you should look at more original articles whenever you are doing research rather than going the meta-analysis way. I think meta-analysis has become too easy way to publish stuff. So that's my take on it.
But then if you do want to commence it, any guidelines to follow, or how can
meta-analysis you got to read.
Yeah.
So how to do a meta-analysis is an entire chapter. We cannot give you tips. Tips is to get liaise to a mentor who has already done a meta-analysis. Take to him 3-4 questions that you feel there is less review articles on the topic. Ask him whether he would like to liaise on these 3-4 questions, research questions for meta-analysis, and there begin your journey in that. So it's a good thing to learn, because once you do it once, you also understand how to read a meta-analysis. That becomes very important because there's so many of them around, and you have to identify which are the good ones and which are the bad ones and which are the rubbish ones. So,
Prashant sir, you worked as a research fellow, so any comments on meta-analysis and how somebody with new to the topic can commence one if he desires so?
If you're in an institute which does not have an IRB, if you do not have your own patients with follow-up, or your mentor does not have patients with the follow-up, reviews and meta-analysis help you get in the picture. So I would not, personally, I would not, as so said that, original research, original articles are right at the top. But for example, like right now I'm working at Bandra Baba Hospital. We do not have an IRB, or we are setting it up right now. We rely on KEM for the IRB. So it's a little difficult for us. We started to get into the research. So we started with review articles, and we started with meta-analysis. So a lot of people, because it does not read an IRB. So in that case, I think it's like a decent way to kind of start publication. So I wouldn't rule them out. They're good. They're nice. They get cited a lot. People like to read, review articles, which is extremely sad. I can see Dr. Ashok like smiling, and I know I should not make that comment, but people like to read reviews. Yeah, who has time to read like?
I like reviews. I don't like meta-analysis. Reviews are
okay. Got it.
I read,
for me, it's more like
most of the reviews I read. They are excellent. I heard the meta-analysis part. The question was on meta-analysis specifically, not on review. Review articles. So
okay, got it.
For students, what I tell them, you can write 3 papers in your residency very, very easily. You can get 3 publications very easily. First is your hypothesis. Okay. So once you make a synopsis, convert it into an hypothesis paper and publish it across. There is a journal that I run, which is called Journal of Medical Thesis. Put across your hypothesis. So it's a publication. There you will not have an issue with who is the first author, second author. You can easily get a first authorship. So that's one thing. Second is a review article. Of course, it will go in a lower journal because you are not so adept in it, but you are doing a literature review. Do it properly, write a narrative review, and yourself write to few of the editors of maybe society journals, the state level journals or the national level journals. Write to them, and many of them will accept it. With your mentor's name, you can write a review article on the topic of your thesis and get it published in your 3rd year itself. And the last one is, of course, your full paper on your thesis, which you can get. So these 3 papers you can easily get published. So I absolutely like reviews. I don't like meta-analysis. That's the point. Because
fair enough.
I actually use these narrative reviews as they're almost like a book chapter. So some questions, particularly from the MUHS perspective, you have questions like, say, generations of bone cement, or say, so they are not very well covered in some of the textbooks. You have good narrative reviews on those topics, and you can use them for your theory papers as well.
But there is a
Yeah.
effort. There is a journal called Effort Reviews, which is absolutely delight to read. It just publishes narrative reviews, and it's a very good journal. Like you said, very good for theory writing, very good for even conceptual. It doesn't have meta-analysis; it has just narrative reviews. So that's a very. It's a free open access. All articles are free for you to read. So that's the.
That's a very valuable suggestion.
Yeah.
We have one question from Divya, and that was actually one of the questions in our list as well. Was the fact that how is research in India sustainable? Any help from funding? Do you know any organizations or bodies which help with that? This is open to both of you if you have any idea about the same.
So we have received funding from AO as well, state as well as national bodies. So IOA as well as state bodies. So you can apply. You have to look for it and just apply. Most of the time they are lacking applications from India. Of course, ICMR is the apex body and it has a lot of other things to do other than orthopedics. But if you make a proper proposal, approach them, I'm sure they are going to fund the thing. So there are opportunities for funding. Most of the funding bodies that I've come in contact with have no applications. So it's people not applying to them rather than them not giving funding. It's the other way around.
Right. So Dr. Prashant.
Yeah. So apart from the organizations, the bodies like ISACOS and others, which I know of, which help you with funding, I think there's also industry support, which is, if your mentor is someone who's doing a lot of cases in a particular field, if he's using that processes particularly very well, they can fund your research. And of course, there has to be, it's always like there's conflict of interest involved. But at the same time, you can begin your research, and you can hire people like statisticians. You can hire research assistants. You can hire people to follow up, keep the follow up of the patient and everything else with that money. So do not leave out like industry support when it comes to research, especially in India where you do not have a lot of sources for funding.
Thanks. And funding also, from my perspective, it has helped me with regards to doing the stats part of it, which I don't really enjoy. So if you do have funding, you can lay it off or outsource it to somebody else and you get help. Or even with regards to professional illustration, so you don't run into copyright issues. If you have funds, you can have an artist and get those diagrams done for you. So approaching for funds is always good because then you have some other avenues like open access or these other people helping you out with, which would not be possible if you're doing it on your own. I have one question in my chat box from Dr. Vaibhav. It's not here in the list. He asks, once published, what could be various ways to spread the publication to make it easily visible to all?
I think ResearchGate, social media, academia, all the bodies where you can upload your article if it is open access, upload it. Social media is an easy way to outreach your article. You can even personally email to people whom you know. So use all the ways, which is within the copyright of the article.
Right.
Most of the have that.
Yeah.
The social media handle where you can share the abstract directly from their pages. So that's easy for them.
I typically use, every time we publish a research, I typically use 4 social media outlets. First is Facebook, second is Instagram, third is ResearchGate, and fourth is LinkedIn. So I put out the link for that, and I put out a kind of a small description which kind of says what this research is all about. Because most of the people who follow you on Facebook and Instagram, half of them are doctors and half of them are not. So I try to put a kind of catchy tagline which says that why this research is important for you. So the minimum thing people do is people click on that and go and read the abstract. If someone is really interested, like 10 people read the abstract, then 2 of them who are really interested. I have got an email. I get emails from people saying that, sir, I need a full paper of this particular thing or blah, blah, blah. So people reach out to you. I even get on ResearchGate, there's a good amount of people who kind of reach out to you, and yeah, absolutely agree. Social media is the way to go.
You forgot Twitter, but yeah, that's one more avenue.
Yeah, it's too political for me.
Yeah, good.
There is one more question
All right,
from Dr. Pratik. He asks, Index Copernicus is not recognized by MCI, but is it recognized abroad? So indexing was a gray area we discussed at the beginning, but Ashok sir, any comments on Index Copernicus?
Yeah, so Index Copernicus was earlier recognized by MCI, but like I said earlier, you're not publishing for MCI. You're publishing for yourself. You have to select the journal which is good for the article that you're going to publish. You cannot, a lot of predatory journals are getting indexed in Index Copernicus, unfortunately, because their rules and regulations are quite open. Okay?
Right.
So,
better rely on PubMed indexing rather than Copernic. Better rely on PubMed indexing as
like I said,
for want of a better word, gold standard.
Yeah, PubMed is the baseline indexing. If not PubMed, then a society journal with a proper peer review process. Put it across. Today or tomorrow, it will get indexed in PubMed, and all your past articles also get indexed. So nothing to worry about in that. Why go to something which you are not sure of? If, like I said, better not to publish if you feel it is a predatory journal. It's a blot in your career.
Sorry, Dr. Prashant, any takes on indexing?
Yeah, about indexing. I think this topic was discussed earlier, and I just want to make one comment: is that those who have a good paper and they are thinking where to publish it, then I've put together 82. Number one, indexing impact factor is overrated. That is not the ideal way. I have had this discussion with Seth Leopold, who is like the editor-in-chief of clinical orthopedics and related research. And his ideas are that impact factor is extremely overrated. There's something called as hygiene factor, which is something which, as researchers, those who are extremely into research, should look for, because that really means that if a good journal is citing your research, your score as a journal will be higher. So, just on the technical point of view, to put things simply, I have put together a list of 82 journals, which are of course on PubMed, but they're also orthopedic journals which have an impact factor via Web of Science. So these are the 82 most impactful journals which you want to publish as an orthopedic surgeon. So I have put together a list. It's uploaded on my Drive, and the link to that is on my Instagram handle in the bio. Okay. So it'll be there for 1 day or 2 days or something like this. So if anyone is hardcore into research and stuff like this, download the PDF from that, and you can have a list of orthopedic journals. You never have to ask anyone. For 2020, there's the latest list of 82 journals in which you can publish. Finally, I would like to say that there was one comment about authorship, which I think one stark difference which I've seen is that, the mentors in India are not criticizing anyone. It's just the trend is they tend to put themselves as a first author, even if like the real work has been done by someone else. So it's like, like more work has been done by the residents. So one of the things which, as we have passed our residency and we are into research, we should do is we should start a trend in India of giving residents the first authorship. And we should be either like a second author or like a last author with corresponding authorship. So that is one trend which I think India should look forward to, because that is what I've seen. Happening in the Western countries. So mentors should be probably last authors with corresponding authorship, and they should give more incentive to the residents by awarding them first authorship if they have done like decent amount of work on the manuscript.
That's a totally different topic about changing the narrative, but thanks for saying it aloud. I was extremely lucky where I had mentors like Srivastav sir, Sandeep sir, and Tushar sir in KM with a huge body of work in spine. So, but I agree with you. Everybody isn't lucky as that, and maybe we can change the narrative now. There is a question from one of the doctors. I don't know the name isn't really clear from his Instagram handle, but he asks if we have to publish case report with 2 to 3 similar cases and no clear data, how to go about it. So Ashok sir, any comments on that question?
What does it mean by no clear data?
I don't know. It was a very dicey question, but just for the sake of completion,
So I'll tell you what case reports are published. So publication of case report will be based on review of literature and the clinical or practical importance of the case. If you feel that from your experience with the case, how you treated it, how you diagnosed it, a reader will learn something important, then that's the case report that will get published. So that's my take on case reports. If your case has a learning point, which the reader, whoever is reading the case and managing a similar case, will get some additional insight into how he can better manage his own case, is the case report. That rarity of the case, some kind of manipulation of the surgical technique or stuff, I mean, those are overrated. This is what I believe is important for a case report, a clinical, practical learning point.
Thanks for that. And there are a few journals which accept case reports. One obviously is JOCR. We discussed about it. From the spine perspective, there is Surgical Neurology International, SNI, which accepts case reports. So if you go to journal websites, they will have a list of the type of articles that they accept. Some journals are only for original articles, and so some journals will accept narrative reviews just like that. Some would only have solicited narrative reviews where they reach out to the authors. So you can always log into the website and see what are the kinds of reports that they accept. There's a huge list of journals like, say, JCOT, the Journal of Clinical Orthopaedics and Trauma, which is of the Delhi Orthopedic Association. They accept case reports. There is the MOJ, the Malaysian Orthopedic Journal, that has case reports too. There is JBJ's Case Connector, which is specifically for something like this. The European Spine Journal has a section known as rounds only for interesting cases. So if you do have something and you believe that your case has a message to convey, there shouldn't be a problem publishing it. With regards to case series particularly, I think there is a limit where most journals require at least 6 cases for that to become a series. I'm not sure about the number. Dr. Prashant, Dr. Ashok, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Prashant, go ahead.
Yeah, I think only 2 case reports as a reviewer. I've been reviewing. I have a very short career so far, but I've been reviewing for decent journals for past 5 years, and I have not reviewed even a single journal for. I've not even reviewed even a single case report for those decent journals. In the sense, I'm saying impact factor 2 or more. So you don't get your hopes high that you'll crack a big journal. Number one. Second things, I would say people who publish case reports, according to me, are specialty journals. If I'm publishing a complication, like a single complication which was never seen in that particular surgery before, and you're reporting that will get published in JSCS, Journal of Shoulder and Elbow Surgery or something like this. They would be interested in that. If your case is something which has a complication which people know, that is like you're sending out a message that this is possible. Be aware of this, right? Because JSCS almost never publishes a case report. We just published compartment syndrome after shoulder surgeries in JSCS. So this is so number one, it has to have a finding which has never been heard before. Number two, or it has to be a breakthrough kind of surgical technique, and you're describing or something like this, which is I think it has to be something which is remarkably different than what we usually see for it to be published as a case report. If not, then they are actually, I wouldn't discourage case reports. I would say they're good starting points for residents. It's less of work. It's nice to kind of get, you get your case report published in, like, after working for 6 months. It's a nice kind of, it feels nice to publish. You get that email, you feel nice, right? So it's, it gives you encouragement to kind of push yourself and do like the next research. So I wouldn't discourage that, but at the same time saying that you will not crack like a very big journal unless you have something which is extremely breakthrough, stuff like that.
Thanks for that comment. Any closing remarks from both of you? And then I'll bring on Ayush sir for his closing remarks as well. Ashok sir, any closing remarks from the research perspective for an Indian resident in ortho?
I think start early and start simple. Take help. There are a lot of people who can help you. Take help. Don't be shy. Like even Prashant said, network with people. Ask them how to collaborate. Unless you show your interest, nobody is going to invite you. I mean, so that's the few tips. Start early. Start asking people. Take help. Collaborate. And go ahead publishing. It's a part of your clinical practice. It's going to make you much better surgeon and a clinician than you are without research. Yeah.
Right. Prashant sir, any remarks from you?
I think in India, what we need is incentive for research. You need to start paying people for research. I mean, you start putting money into research and stuff like this, which is going to happen. It is bound to happen because you see all these big institutes turning into research, like Sancheti and DY Patil and all of them are turning into research institutes. I'll tell you the reason why. It's because it's very good for branding. We go internationally, and if I'm presenting a paper internationally, and if I put a name that this research came from KEM Hospital, right? So it's very good tool for branding. You'd be surprised to know that Johns Hopkins and Mayo, 50% of their revenue does not come from patient treatment. Their 50% of revenue, more than 50% of revenue comes from research, from funding. So if you want the corporate to fund you, you need to show research as well. That is what I feel personally. That is the future. That is where everything is going. Not today, not tomorrow. People are going to deny it. People are going to say this guy does not know what he's talking about. Trust me, in 5 to 10 years, research is in medical field, especially with COVID. With people have been following papers. People call me and what is the research to back a particular treatment for COVID. So people are getting, they're getting more evolved. Patients are getting more evolved. Right. So industry is getting more evolved. So research is going to be the future. And you want to, when I reach the peak of my career, which is like 40, 45 or something like this, I want to be a guy who does research instead of a guy who just does surgeries, right? That is what my take on this is in the future. Second thing I would say is that why research is important for young people is there are 3 ways we can learn as doctors, as especially orthopedic surgeons. First is we can learn from someone else's mistake, like our mentors who tell us that, don't hold the cautery like this, don't suck like this, and, blah, blah, blah. So we can either learn from our mentors. Second, we can learn from is the published literature. We can read. No one has time to read all the literature which is published, right? The third and most important way is we can learn from our own mistakes. There is no better way to learn from your own mistakes than sit and analyze your data. When you do that, you actually know that, if someone comes to you and says that, hey, I have done, if I repair your rotator cuff, what are the chances it will get better? I read some paper, it says there's 90% of failure rate. You say that, see, I have this paper and you can go and read it. And the success rate in my hands is 10% or 15%. And that gives you a certain kind of authenticity. So number one, I think that when you're once into research, you kind of quote the research very well. You can have your own papers. It helps you become like a good clinician, as both the other panelists mentioned. So definitely it helps you become like a good, rational, scientific-minded, with scientific temperament clinician. It gives you, second thing why research helps you is it gives you professional excellence. You are a faculty, international, national faculty going. People know you, people refer you cases because you know about that topic so much that you go and you educate 10 to 15 or, you educate like 100 to 200 doctors about it. That means you have some kind of authenticity. So research kind of gives you that avenue. Finally, the third thing is why research really helps you is it helps you connect with the patients. I'll tell you, no one wants to go to a doctor. If I want to get my mom's knee replaced, or I just recently had this personal listening in when my grandmother needed like a pacemaker device. So the first thing which I did, I went and I checked in Mumbai who is the guy who was published on it. Well, that is just me. Maybe I'm into research, but people are going in that direction. People are saying that, okay, this guy is something which he has published like a review article or something like this. So this guy is maybe, because we don't know anything. Everything is on internet. When you check internet, Dr. Nandan Marathe, he has published his spine. He has published papers. He's on Instagram. He's like blah, blah, blah. There's more likely people are going to go to Nandan for spine as compared to me, right? So your social media presence changes. And social media presence also defines how you do as a clinician. So I think in future, it's extremely important that we are at some or the other level into research, and it is going to generate revenue in the future. So especially for guys starting out in our generation, I think we should get into research. Get on that boat. Do not miss that ship.
That's a very important comment because only when you have your own body of work or research, you can shift from saying, in my experience, to as per this article that I published. So it's not anecdotal, but evidence based medicine
Yes.
in the true sense.
Such a show off, man.
One final question for both of you before we bring on Ayush sir for his closing comments. Any particular structured courses or which a resident can attend from the research perspective and gain some insights and direction run by any bodies that you're aware of? I knew OrthoTV had a good session on research today itself. So, are you aware about something like that where a resident can attend a structured
We
course? Or
do hold regularly, but JBJ's British or BJJ has held is holding a course maybe this month end or so. They regularly hold it 2 or 3 times a year. It's a very good course. It's a paid course, of course, but you can get good insight. Even the Australian bodies hold research courses for residents.
right,
Fortunately, there are in India also hold courses through MCI and MUHS, but they become too theoretical for an orthopedic surgeons to get into it. So it slightly becomes difficult for us. I mean, it puts off more people than puts them on. So, but I think
right.
VJJ course is good and people can attend that. It's a good insight.
Thanks for that. Dr. Prashant, are you aware about any structured courses or something that we can attend? Like we know that there's a PG training course which is run by, say, Sancheti or KM Hospital pertaining to practicals. So, do you know about something particularly relevant to research that we can attend? And
So, in terms of, yeah, I mean, there are many courses which, if you go online and you can see in this big universities, and they have courses, and what happens after 3 to 4 years, they'll put out this big document about, the minutes of the meetings or something like this, which you will be able to access. I personally believe that the best way to do research or best way to learn about research is by getting into it and then start doing it in your residency, because you're already in the ship where people are, you can start publishing the cases. So I agree with you that I agree with Shyam sir that way. He said that it's a little theoretical for people to get in. So research is fun. Get into it. Learn while you're doing it. That's the best way to do it, especially in Indian residency, because you do not have that kind of time to sit around and read a 100-page article or sit through days together of courses. So my recommendation would be to get into it, start publishing, win small, and then publish case reports, small things, and then go on with that. And as you go on, you learn. Because personally, in my personal experience, I have not really attended these kind of workshops, so I do not have any kind of insights in that. I learned from what I got, what I learned in my practical experience with research. So research is fun, and jump on the ship.
thank you both for your comments and valuable time on a holiday. I'll bring on Ayush sir for his final remarks. And Ashok sir, thank you again for taking time from your busy schedule and joining us on this very important but slightly undercovered topic for Indian residents.
Sure.
Thanks so much, sir. Good talk.
Okay, how do I leave? Okay, wait. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's up with you and screwing up people's Sundays, man?
I don't know. That's the only time I got. Hi again,
Hi,
Ayush.
guys.
Good to have you back. Hope you
Hey.
discussion. We had two questions for you. One in my chat box, and one was about the closing comments. One was with regards to spine. What are the journals that you're aware of and you have actively published? Could you enumerate a few and discuss about those journals? So the question was particularly with regards to publishing your spine article.
So spine, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to spine, of course, like I like Prashant enumerated, there are a list of journals you go by. The spine journal comes to the top of my mind, and then the other one is the spine journal which is from NAS, and then Global Spine, and then we have Asian Spine Journal. So fortunately, I had opportunity to publish in all of them. And then when it comes to spine, you should also look at some of the neurosurgery journals. There are few of my own papers which were rejected by the spine journals, got very readily accepted, and in some of the very reputed neurosurgery journals. For example, the Acta Neurosurgica, which is the official journal of European Neurosurgical Society and one of the most reputed when it comes to neurosurgery, a paper which was thrice rejected by the spine journals. I think sometimes your paper is on the extreme side or something like that. I personally feel the Neurosurgical Society is more acceptable to a sort of extreme idea than a orthopedic or a spine society. That is my personal opinion. So when you are planning to publish in spine, look at the spine journal. There are pretty good journals which allow you to.
I think the video is stuck somewhere. We lost you, Ayush sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you? Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was suggesting is when it comes to spine, not only look at the spine journals, but also look at the journals from the neurosurgery side, and they're pretty good journals you can choose from.
Thanks. Any other closing comments before we end the session?
So I think excellent session and excellent comments from all of you. I think, the very question of research starts from your need, and we need research throughout your life. And as a orthopedic surgeon or as a spine surgeon or whichever field you are, you start with the research to get your thesis through. Then when you're past your residency, you want to get into fellowship, and that is when when it allows you to go into a good fellowship. And as you go into your clinical side, as you want to become a clinician, again, it helps you to get recognition, which Prashant rightly pointed out, and it lets you validate your own data so that you know what you are doing, and it lets you improve and improvise. So research should be part of a DNA of any clinician, a surgeon, or a physician. And going future, I completely agree with you, Prashant, that it is going to come in a bigger and brighter way, much more than what we see today. So anyone who is joining a residency today should start today. Start right now. It's a process. It's a learning curve like any other thing.
Thanks for that. And thanks, Ayush sir, for your valuable time today on a Sunday. Despite your busy schedule, you agreed to join this session. And it's good to see somebody in active practice who has managed to combine practice with research. It gives hope for me and Dr. Prashant, who want to continue and follow in your footsteps. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. So good to see you. You look.
Thanks.
You look younger than the last time I saw you 5 years back, sir.
Oh, for me?
Obviously, yeah. That's not for me.
So research kept me younger, no? Add to this point.
Oh yeah, it's about quality of life, man. It's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ayush.
So, great talk, guys. Great to have you all.
Thanks so much. I've learned so much. Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, Abhijit from Kanyamed has a few closing remarks to make, and we then close the session for today. Thanks, Abhijit, again.
No, thank you so much. This was such an incredible session, and learned so much.
I'm pretty sure you were asleep for half of the time, but
no. I learned a lot more. Right, I'm an engineer, not as cool as you guys medicos, but learned a lot, and it was very, very inspirational. I think it was just learned so much as an entrepreneur and as an ally of a medical apparel brand. We are trying to create apparel scrubs and lab coats to really celebrate and empower doctors like you. Right. So thank you so much for all your inputs. And as promised, we'd love to kind of share a pair of, next gen scrub suits to each of you. So we'll get that coordinated as well. But, again, thank you very much for having us be part of these sessions. We'd love to collaborate in whatever way we can, because really, thank you for your work, and more than ever, spend so much time in the United States at Stanford, particularly where I've seen the importance of research, right? Where not just in the medical field, but across the board, right? And that point really resonated with me in a great way. So again, thank you so much for your kind words to each of you, and for having us, partner with you all today. We again looking to create like cool medical apparel to, support doctors like you and celebrate doctors like you, because I feel as a common man today, doctors require that celebration. The times in India are tough, right? I think with the basic discrimination and attack that's happening on doctors, it's very, very unfortunate and upsetting for like common citizens like me. And we will do our little bit to kind of celebrate you guys, so that when y'all go into like doing research or doing a procedure, the apparel that y'all wear, you'll feel like empowered, you'll feel cool. Because today when I go to work, I can choose from 20 shirts and 20 pants, right? Unfortunately, I think you all can only choose from a couple of colors and a couple of scrub suits out there, right? So I think we will do our bit to kind of provide that to you.
Thanks for that.
Again, thank you again for having us.
Abhijit did not mention, but they have been at the forefront. And when there was a shortage of PPE kits, they have personally delivered kits to hospitals, driving these vans on their own during the lockdown period and stuff like that, which is like behind the scenes action. And they may not be the actual frontline workers, but they're actually supporting frontline workers in a big way and not advertising about it. So great work, guys. Prashant sir, one request from you. When I upload the video on IGTV, I want that list of journals in the comment section as well, if you can share it with us.
I'll try. Yeah, cool. So, Abhi, just, the best way you can support us is like fund a research, man.
No, 100%. I'm happy to. So we actually donate. I'll tell you, we donate around 10% of all our revenue goes to like giving medical apparel to tier 2, tier 3 towns, which really don't have access to any kind of medical apparel, right? But the goal is, as we scale as a business, is to kind of support research, because I think the only way we kind of solve the toughest problems in the world and where India comes on the map today is research, right? The reason the United States and China are ahead is because of the intellectual property they're creating. Right. And I think today India is lacking behind seriously intellectual property. And the only we can do that is because we have the talent. You just kind of need to provide the talent, kind of match that to create intellectual property. So in whatever way we can, we will eventually, we plan to kind of support the medical community, whether it's giveaway apparel or kind of fund research and take care of cool initiatives like that. So it's the early days, and for us to kind of build relationships with doctors like you and Dr. Nandan is where we can get started. So would love to keep in touch and share notes as we evolve as well. It's early days for us as well.
Thanks everyone.
Absolutely. Godspeed.
Comments.
Godspeed indeed. Thank you so much, guys, again for your service and for having us. Be safe, and thank you again for all your work. And we'll send across the scrub. Somebody from the team will coordinate.
So
absolutely.
Out the IGTV video as well. And if there was any question which was not taken or wasn't covered during today's live session, drop it as a comment or DM to one of the panelists, and we are happy to get back to you. The most requested session during the previous chat was about the utility of MRCS exams and MRCS versus PLABs and structured fellowships to UK. So I'm trying to coordinate a date and time, and we'll get back to you shortly on that topic, as well as the previous topic of Indian fellowships and